Buddha once said, "We are what we think about most," and that's because thoughts become things. It is so important that you and your child develop positive thinking. The power and the importance of positive thinking is instrumental to success in anyone, not just yourself or your child, and anyone to succeed in life. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and our show is going to provide you some tools, inspiration, and motivation to success. We're going to provide you a show that will truly help you to dream big, think positive, and take action. We're going to bring you interviews from people across this great state of Kansas. We're going to bring you leaders from this community. We're going to bring you teachers, coaches. We're going to bring you military leaders and some great people to inspire and motivate you. So please stay tuned. We have a great show for you today.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNWK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
He cries in the corner where nobody sees. He's the kid with the story no one would believe. He prays every night, "Dear God, won't you please, could you send someone here who will love me?"
Help a child know they're special. Adopt. Call or go online to learn how.
Who will love me for me?
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simon's, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simon's Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hays.
Welcome everyone to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwand. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Schwant, and my guest for you today is Jerry, the President and CEO of DSNWK. So Jerry, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, sure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so Jerry, in your world with DSNWK, we're going to talk about some of the great things that you guys are doing. But before we get into that, could you let the viewers know a little about you and kind of who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am Jerry. I've lived here in Hays area since the early 80s, but I never want to assume that people understand what DSNWK means. It's Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas, and we're a 501c3, which is a not-for-profit. Some people think that we're a branch of the government, and want to clarify that, if I might, right out of the chute. A little bit about who I am. I'm born into a big family. There's 11 siblings together. I'm the youngest of those 11, and grew up in a strong family. I'm blessed to be able to say that, and a strong work ethic was something that was very important. And then looking out for the needs of other people was also something that was kind of I grew up with my parents as great role models.
So I guess that leads into what you do at DSNWK. Can you tell us a little more about DSNWK, and then later on we'll talk about all the great things that you guys do. What's the mission of DSNWK, and kind of what do you guys do?
Well, our mission is really pretty simple. We serve the 18 counties of Northwest Kansas. We've been around for about 47 years and counting. We are a service, a support for families and individuals with developmental disabilities, and our mission is to help them to have full lives in the community, integrated in the community. And our goal is really that each person is valued and seen as a valuable member of their community.
No, that's great. I mean, it's very valuable stuff that you guys are doing. What led you into this kind of career to be the president and CEO of DSNWK? Was it your strong ties, as you mentioned, growing up as a child with a strong family and the needs to help people in your family and community? I mean, what was your motivation and inspiration, I guess, to be where you're at today?
Well, the path of life is not always crystal clear. And when I graduated a graduate of Fort Hays here in Hays. And when I graduated, was looking for employment opportunities. I was just newly, actually I was going to be married in the near future. And I had a connection with some of the folks that worked at Developmental Services. A job opening was available in their area, measuring quality and licensing and that type of thing. And I guess they got their hooks into me and never were able to shake to shake me loose. So
yeah. What now? Where did you did you grow up here in Hays, Kansas, or what town did you grow up in?
Well, my story is a little unique in the sense that I came to school here as a resident student at Thomas More Prep.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, there were two of us from my family that ventured out to the plains, and that's how I got introduced to this community, and I love it, and ultimately I've kind of returned and set my roots here.
Yeah, you know, every time I think of Hays, Kansas, or Fort Hays State University, or just Kansas in general, you know, you think of, and I talk about, whenever I talk to groups, and I'm in Kansas, I always mention it, the leadership skills, the values that you gain here, compassion, empathy, and hard work, you know, just in small town Kansas is just unbelievable. You know, I traveled the country, you know, with the military, and I just moved back here in 2015 and from DC. And yeah, it's great to be back in Kansas, and there's so many great people back here in Kansas. We're going to get into DSNWK and some of the things that you do and some of the people that you help. But before that, I was hoping to get a personal story from you, from Jerry, on overcoming adversity. Maybe a significant obstacle in your life, or you had to, you know, really overcome an obstacle. Any personal story you can think of? Oh, sure. Actually, there are a couple that come to mind, but I'll focus on one. When I was in the first, just getting ready to start high school, we had a situation with one of my brothers going missing. And he was 5 years older than I. So I knew him, but we were kind of in a family of 11. I was kind of at the bottom end of that group, and then he was at probably the bottom end of the older siblings. But I knew him, and he came up missing, and we tried as we might to try to find him, and had investigators looking and trying to find him, and he's missing still to today. Oh, wow. And but the hardship was something that really drove our family together. We pulled together, and faith has always been an important part of my life, and that grew as a result of the hardship, which is kind of it's strange that it works that way. That we grow deeper and more aware of what's around us when something like that touches our lives. Yeah, and I guess it gives you greater appreciation for your family, I'm sure. Oh, sure. Oh, I'm sure that bleeds over into what you do at DSNWK. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to get into all the great things that is happening at DSNWK and all the great people that you're helping. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Very good.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org. Your child deserves to know you care, even if you can't be by her side every day. If you owe the state of Kansas for back child support, we've got a new program that helps you pay down your debt while paving the way for your child's higher education. It takes just a $25 investment to get started. Learn more at www.dcf.ks.gov, helping you build a healthy family and support your child to succeed.
Hello, I am Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and as a former foster child, I want to give back and help others succeed. I've wrote 2 books dedicated to foster families. Last year, I wrote Succeeding as a Foster Child. This book is a roadmap for success for foster children. My second book, Finding Your Hero, was recently published. This book is a children's book for foster children and provides a positive message for foster families. These books are great resources for foster families and can be found at jamieschwandt.com. Thank you and God bless.
At Eagle Communications, we're proud to provide the communications services you need to get the most from today's technology. Our employee owners make it happen. We're part of your community, and we take pride in delivering excellent customer service. If you ever have a question, give us a call. We're here to help. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt. I'm here for our second part of our interview with Jerry from DSNWK. So Jerry, before the commercial break, we kind of talked a little bit about you and some, your story with your brother. But now let's get into DSNWK. Let's talk about all the great things that you are doing. So I'll let you take it over from here.
Sure. Well, I think any story about the present requires a bit of a look back at the history of services and connections, supports for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Really the life cycle of what we do now today in our community operations or community services wasn't too many years ago where it was the norm was very different. For families to have been recommended to take their son or their daughter with a disability and place in a state institution, that was normal. Mm-hmm. But there were a group of folks, and this is where the history plays out in the strong community connections and families and families really wanting something new or something better for their sons and daughters. And so out of that grassroots effort grew community services, and developmental services came into being. In the early days, it was called something different. We had the Homer B. Reed Center here in Ellis County in Hayes, but we had other locations out in northwest Kansas, and today we serve those counties and have service settings in several cities throughout northwest Kansas. But the history was the state institutional model, and the evolution of that was people became aware that there were better options, and so the state, as a policy matter, began to make a change in what they had to offer. And so we had the evolution of the community system developing. I remember James Bloom, the previous president at Developmental Services. I followed in the great steps that he laid down. But he told me a story of when he was in the process of that community integration, or that process of bringing people out of state institutions into communities. And he told me of an occurrence up when they were closing down Norton State Hospital in the late 80s. He said that the order was they would parade 6-8 people in at a time. And it just still resonates so deeply to me that one of those individuals that came through was whispering, "Pick me, pick me."
Oh, wow.
He wanted a real life. Mm-hmm. And the life that they had in the institutions was what was societal's norm. But so glad to say that today that's different. That's different.
So a resident of DSNWK, I guess if someone gets admitted to DSNWK, they live on their own, correct? Or do they live in housing, or how does that work?
Well, it's a great question. And it's yes and yes. It just depends on the continuum of what their support needs are. Just like all of us, everyone functions at a little bit different level. Developmental disabilities can strike in a significant way and a more mild way. If a person has just the needs for supports to just maintain what they need, they may live in an apartment of their own and have some intermittent supports. But then there are some folks that have multiple significant disabilities that require pretty intensive supports for them to manage life.
So the ones that are able to live on their own, so you guys kind of integrate them in the community, they seek employment, and then they kind of they come to some of your services, or how does that work?
Sure. Well, depending, it doesn't matter whether they have a significant disability or a mild or a more mild disability. Integration in the community is something that we strive for all. It has to manifest itself in a little bit different ways, but it's important for everyone. For those that are fairly high functioning and able to manage many aspects of their life, employment has always been an effort that we have seen as a value. I personally believe that if you can work, you should work. And I believe that's a strong direction. And generally we find that people want to have meaningful work. And we work with employers. We actually are going to have an event later on this day about celebrating employers who have embraced giving people a chance. And it's a beautiful partnership that happens there.
No, that's really cool, and I mean those are some great things you guys are doing. What's on the horizon? I guess what's the future of DSNWK? You guys have anything coming out soon, or anything you guys are looking towards doing? Or
well, our current operation, when we came and developed community services, it requires some support from community at large. The state, our financing for our system is generally a partnership between state, federal, and local. Emphasis on the state and federal because that's where the lion's share of our support dollars come from. We've been able to provide those supports within the community for a far greater, actually a much lesser cost than what it would cost to serve in a state institution. So we've added value. That's kind of the practical side of doing that. But that model has been not given the attention that I believe it needs, and that's on all of us as individual citizens and as our our leadership in our state government to do something about that. It's been let to lie for far too long, and our community system in Kansas is struggling. It is. What we're doing new is we've expanded to a new approach to embracing, connecting with individuals that know and value people, and inviting them to join us in creating a legacy for the future. But that legacy can begin today, but certainly for the future. And so a new venture for us is entering into planned giving and educating people that there is a need, and B, they might have some way to help leave a legacy of their own in really transforming the lives of people who do need that.
Yeah, and what you guys do is, I mean, you guys are an inspiration. That is awesome work you guys do. I mean, that's that's a very important job. You think of these people that they need assistance, they need a support system. You know, I talk a lot about foster children, and that's the primary purpose of this show, is talking about foster care. Helping those in need. I mean, you guys go that extra step in providing that support system. So, I applaud everything you guys are doing. You kind of led into something I wanted to ask you about. What can our viewers watching today, what could they take from this show? What could they go out and do in action now to assist DSNWK?
Well, I would start with a very practical thing, and I think most people do it. But it is seeing people with disabilities a little bit differently. And I challenge folks to see their ability instead of their disability. And it's amazing what happens when we put on a new set of lenses and see our brothers and sisters and friends and family in the community through those lenses. We suddenly see the smiling face. We see the warm embrace. We see the beauty of what is the human spirit coming out. And just because it may not process quite as fast as you and I, it's beautiful. And so recognizing people for their abilities instead of their disabilities, and that's hard because oftentimes we can have an eye of being critical about what isn't right instead of what is, and maybe that's a whole other conversation to have.
I think it is, but that's a great point. What I want to do now is I love to read. Leaders are readers, and I think I say that quote way too much, but I love books, love to read. And one book that I just recently finished that stands out to me when I think of DSNWK is a book called Flowers for Algernon. I don't know if you ever heard of that book. It is a phenomenal book. But what I wanted to ask you now is, do you have a book that you pull or that's an inspiration to you that you would recommend to our viewers, that Jerry loves?
Well, inspiration for me comes from people who have lived lives of courage and have been courageous. Those are the things that are inspiring to me. We kind of challenge individuals with disabilities, and they basically tell us by the way they live that life of courage. One of the books that I'm reading right now is about a gentleman named Karol Wojtyła. Society knows him as the late John Paul II, the Pope who passed. And his inspiration to me is, if you read his book, and I'm reading the life of John Paul II, there are stories in there that are completely amazing. Most people in society knew him as, he was the Pope of the Catholic Church. But if you read his life story, you see how he overcame some of the most harshest conditions in pre-World War II and through the war and through the Cold War, and how his spirit, his power, his energy was rooted in his faith, but also in the spirit of working with people and seeing people and the value of each life. And so there's so many common threads there.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that happens to be the book of inspiration for me.
What was it called again?
It's called the.
Yeah, you have it down here.
Yeah,
you want to reach down and grab it here?
Yeah, that would be great.
So the St. John Paul the Great, it's 5 Loves. All right, by Jason Everett.
Yes.
All right.
And it's a wonderful read. I'm not quite finished with it, but I am moved by the actions of people who were faced with challenges in their lives and what they did to transform through it when turning and running might have been the easy path.
Yeah. No, that's great stuff. And Jerry, I very much appreciate you coming on the show today. Again, I applaud everything you guys are doing at DSNWK. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
So that does it for our show today. I want to thank all our viewers for tuning in to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt, and God bless the United States of America.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org.
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simons, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simons Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hayes.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNWK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.